In this video, you're going to learn how to build an AI voice-to-text app using Bubble and OpenAI. We're going to go step by step through the tutorial, so even if you've never built an app using Bubble or have ever used an API before, you're going to be able to go through and follow along and build your own version of this app. The focus of this tutorial is on the functionality and not on the design, so just keep that in mind as we go through this app. If you have any questions at all, please leave a comment below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you at the end of the video. And if you want to learn more about building apps with AI using Bubble and other no-code tools, check out the link in our description or go to nocode.mba to learn more and get our full in-depth tutorials. So let's start with a brand new Bubble app here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is go to the left side, go to Plugins, and I'm going to click Add Plugins. So we're going to need to add a couple plugins to build this functionality. The first is the API connector, and that should be the first one that pops up there on the top. You can also search for it on the left side. And that's going to allow us to connect our app to OpenAI's API and actually use the Whisper API through that connection. I'm also going to search for audio recorder. Actually, one second here. Actually, I have to put a space in between audio and recorder. And it should be this one here. This is the icon that we want to install. So it's the one here with the blue icon. And I'm going to go ahead and install it. The reason we're doing this one is because I verified that this works the best in my testing. So this is the plugin that's going to allow us to let users kind of click record and actually record in our app. So I'm going to go ahead and click done here. So we have our audio recorder and our API connector. So the first thing we need to do is connect to the to the OpenAI API. So I'm going to go ahead and click add another API. The name is going to be OpenAI. Authentication is going to be private key in header. And the next thing that we're going to do is go into the OpenAI API documentation. So you can get there by just searching OpenAI documentation API here in Google. I'm going to go ahead and click on the first one. And what we're going to do is use the audio endpoint here. And what we're going to do is send in an audio file, and we're going to get back a text response, so for voice to text. If you're not familiar with APIs, I'm going to explain on a high level how it works and how to connect it to your Bubble app, so you should be totally fine. There's a lot of other videos on the No Code MBA YouTube channel, as well as in our No Code MBA course on nocode.mba, which goes into all of this in a lot more detail, especially our Building Apps with AI course. So I definitely recommend checking that out to learn more about how to build with all of these different API endpoints, as well as other API connections that aren't through OpenAI. But the first thing we're going to need to do is go here to the top, go to authentication, and this is where we're going to connect through a password our Bubble app to the to OpenAI's app here. So they're telling us a specific format to do this. So in the header, it's going to be authorization and then bearer and then our open API key. So here, if I go back to our plugin, we have authorization, then it's going to be bearer. Authorization is the key name. The value here is bearer, space, and then we're going to do the API key. We're going to do the same thing here, bearer, space, and then the API key. So to get your API key, you have to create an OpenAI account. So I'm going to go into my OpenAI admin dashboard and get an API key. So once you either log in or create an account to the OpenAI platform, it's platform.openai.com. On the top right, you're just going to go to your View API Keys page here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new secret key, and this is going to be for voice to text demo. You can call it whatever you want. And then you're going to want to copy that secret key. And this is something that you want to keep secret. It's kind of like a password into your OpenAI account. So I'm going to delete mine after this video. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that API key. And we're going to go ahead and put a space after bearer and paste in our API key. We're going to do the same thing for the development key value. Now, if you wanted to have a separate API key for development and the key value, you could. What that means is the development key is what we're on right now in Bubble, the development version. The key value here, which is the live version, is after you publish your app. So in our case, we're just going to use the same one for each of these, the key value and the development key value. Okay, so here we are back on the OpenAI documentation, and I'm going to actually go to API reference, not documentation. We're going to go to the audio endpoint, and what we want to do is, let's see, audio endpoint, and we want to do a speech to text, which is creating a transcription here. So we're going to transcribe the audio into the input language. So the first thing we need to do is add a content type of multi-part / form data. So to do this, we can just go ahead and copy that header, and then I'll put it in over here. We can add a header to Whisper Transcribe. And this is a little different from the header that you would use for other OpenAI calls, like a chat API call, which you would use application /JSON. So just keep that in mind. This is specific here to the Whisper Transcribe. And then the other header, we're going to copy that, multi-part / form data. Okay, great. Now we're going to go back to the documentation here, and we can see in the body, and this is the body here, we're going to need a file and a model. The others are just options. We do not have to include these. We're just going to not include them in our example, but we do need a file and a model. Okay, so we're going to add a parameter. Actually, we're going to delete that. We're going to change the body type to form data, which is going to allow us, here as you can see, it's a form data content type, which is going to allow us to upload a file. And this is something that's helpful in Bubble in general when you need to upload a file in your API call. So what we're going to do is uncheck private, click send file, which is going to now have the value be a value upload, and I'm going to name the parameter a file. Next, model. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that. And the model, it says here in the API documentation that only Whisper-1 is currently available. So in the future, they might upgrade Whisper and Whisper-2 might be available. Okay, great. So the reason I unchecked private here is that's going to allow us to dynamically change the file in our Bubble app later, which you'll see. Here, we're not going to change the model name, so I'm going to keep that checked as private. Okay, so we're going to need to initialize this call before it will work, and to do that, we need to actually upload a voice file of someone speaking so that we can see if it works. Okay, so what I did was I searched for the Gettysburg Address MP3 download of audio, and I found a website here which you could find as well. This is chuckbrownvoiceover.com. You really can get any MP3 file where someone is speaking. Go ahead and download that MP3, and then I'm going to go ahead and upload it here as our file parameter. Okay, so now we are ready to initialize our call and make sure that it's working. So I'm going to click initialize. Now it is sending that data over to OpenAI, and it hopefully will send us back the text of the Gettysburg Address, and it looks like it did. So if I show the raw data, here we go. This is it. So it successfully converted the audio into text. So voice to text, very cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and click save. It's important to click save there, not cancel. And we are getting close. So all of the hard part is pretty much done now. So now we just have to build it out in the front end with our audio recorder. Okay, so let's go back to our designer here. And what I'm going to do is, first, what we're going to do is go down and we're going to pull in an element here, which is going to be our audio recorder element. So I'm just going to pull that in, and this is basically just a little element. We're going to put it on the side. You would basically, if you're building an app, maybe we can do it now. We can basically just make it very small, 1 by 1. We're just putting this on the page so that way we can use the functionality. But this isn't actually what we're going to use to show the recorder. So this is on our page now, but it's essentially hidden, and we can see it here on the page, audio recorder A. But now what we're going to do is search for an icon here, drag an icon onto the screen, and I'm going to make this icon a microphone here. And then why don't I make it green? So it'll be a green microphone. Okay, great. So it'll be a green microphone here. I'm going to rename it recorder icon. So now what I'm going to do is add a workflow to this recorder icon. So if we click that icon, what we're going to do is click on that logic. So first, the when recorder icon is clicked, add another condition, which is going to be when audio recorder A recording status is no. So this is really nice. It's a built-in value that when, and it's through that plugin that we added, when the it's recording, it's going to switch to yes. But right now it is no by default. And then we're going to add an action, which is going to be, we can search for record, and it's going to be start an audio recorder A. So when you click that, this status is actually going to change to yes automatically. Okay, so now what we need to do is add logic for when we click on that icon, but the status is, recording status is yes. So by doing that, we can just add another event. We can say element, and element is clicked. The element can be recorder icon, and it's the only difference here is we're going to say only when the audio recorder A's recording status is yes. So when we click on it and the recording status is yes, what we're going to do is now instead of starting an audio recorder, we're going to stop an audio recorder. Okay, so we're going to stop an audio recorder here. We're going to click Save to Bubble. And then the file name is just going to be audio. You can name it really anything you want, but basically we're going to save a file named to Bubble, and the file is going to be the recording. So you're going to click on the icon, it'll start the audio recorder, and then when we click on it again, when it is recording, it will stop the audio recorder, and it will save that file to Bubble here. Okay, so now we need to do one more event here, one more workflow event, which is going to actually send that file to OpenAI and get that file and send back the text. In the past, I've tried to add it as an action here. So after we stop the audio recorder, adding the OpenAI whisper transcribe. And by the way, if you don't see this show up under an action, you have to go back to your plugin and make sure under the API connector that you're using it as an action. If you have it as data, it won't show up. And then I tried that, but it just doesn't work. I think what's happening is basically Bubble is calling that API before we have that file generated, and it's not working correctly. So what we need to do is add another event. What I'm doing is doing an event when a condition is true. And then I'm going to add two conditions. One is going to be when audio recorder A's recording status is no, so it's not recording, and audio recorder A's save to Bubble URL is not empty. So what we're doing is saying, okay, it's not recording, we've stopped the audio, and we've successfully saved that to Bubble. And what we're going to do is then add an action, which is going to be the OpenAI whisper transcribe. The dynamic link is going to be audio recorder A's save to Bubble URL. And we need to do one thing to this dynamic link. We need to do find and replace, and we're going to do 2 forward slashes and replace it with https://2 forward slashes, because the format of the file that Bubble has saved is just 2 forward slashes, but we need to add this URL beginning here. So just something that you need to do that I kind of found out through trial and error here. And then the next action is going to be, we'll search for record, and we're going to clear an audio recorder. So we're going to clear that audio recorder A, and by doing that, we're going to then basically change that, save to Bubble URL as empty. So right now it's not empty. It's going to kind of clear it out, and we can start the process again. Okay, great. So we're going to clear that audio recorder A, and then I want to do one more thing, which is store the response of the transcription. To do that, I'm just going to go to the index element here, which is the whole page. On the top info button, I'm going to add a custom state, which is basically just saving this to the browser. You could save this to your database. There's a lot of different ways you could do it, but in this case, I'm just going to save it to the browser. The state name is going to be response, and it will be a text. And I'm going to create it, and there we go. So now we have a custom state we can save to the page. I'm also going to add a text element and just drag it really large on this page. And then we're going to click this blue button, insert dynamic data. And in that case, now I'm going to choose index response. So we're just going to dynamically show the index's response here. Okay, great. I'm going to add one more text here element on the top. I'm just going to add it right above. I'm going to say recording. I can just go and maybe change it to red and maybe just make it smaller, put it right here. Again, not worrying about the design here. I would design with, I wouldn't normally design with the fixed layout, but it makes it really easy to just show you the functionality. So we're going to do recording, and what I'm going to do is add a conditional, and I'm going to say when audio recorder A's recording status is yes, this element will be visible. Otherwise, we're going to say it is not visible on page load. So by default, this will not be visible. Once we're recording, it will show up as recording, and then it will hide otherwise. Okay, great. And now what I'm going to do is add a workflow. And under the Whisper workflow here, when we send the API call, I'm going to add one more action, which is set state of an element. The element is the index. The custom state is the response. The value is the result of step 1's text. Perfect. Okay, so we should be all set now. I'm going to go ahead and preview this so we can view it live. And here we go. So let's see, this should all work now. So I'm going to go ahead and click this button. It's going to say, it's going to prompt you and ask if you want to access the microphone. I'm going to say allow. Okay, we know that it is recording now because we see this recording text. There's definitely more, types of styling, and you could add some sort of recording status or kind of button to tell you to click it again to stop recording. But okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now. So I stopped recording, and now it's sending that API call to OpenAI, and here we go. Amazing. So here we have the text that we were just speaking, and it just transcribed it. So that was the voice-to-text API showing live. But yeah, so that is pretty much it. You've now learned how to implement an audio recorder to record voice, save that voice file, send it to OpenAI through the Whisper API, and get text back from that audio file. And there's a lot you can do on top of this to use this with lots of different potential use cases in your Bubble app. If you want to learn more about building with AI APIs in Bubble and other no-code apps, definitely check out the link in the description or go to nocode.mba to check out our full in-depth courses. I would also recommend checking out No Code MBA to learn how to design and build in Bubble and build really nice looking apps using Bubble's responsive designer. So there's a lot you can do to really add UI, UX, and design into an app like this. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions at all, please just leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to No Code MBA and get all of our future videos on YouTube here by subscribing. So if you have any questions, again, just leave a comment. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.